Midland, please welcome Mr. Josh Swing to the stage. Josh, let's talk about growth, my friend.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Can we get some volume over here, KP? Hook me up, my man. Everybody, it is time to have some fun. I need everybody to stand up. Chick-fil-A, Houston. We're about to do the hokey pokey. Left foot. Come on. Get into it. I need more. I need some more. Hey, I got a prize coming to the best table. Whoever's getting after it the most, I got a prize coming your way. Right hand.
You know the words. You can say them all.
Hokey pokey. You turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Couple of times. Left hand.
You got it.
Head in. Shake it all. Don't mess up your hair. Last time.
All right, don't hurt yourself, but put your whole self into it, folks. Dig into it.
That's what it's all about. Thank you, everybody. Have a seat. I need to see what table it was. Table number 33, right here, Kat, was getting after it. I saw some hands flying in the air. We've got some Starbucks gift cards coming y'all's way to keep fueling that energy. You may be asking yourself right now, why in the world did we just do the hokey pokey? And 3 reasons. One of my favorite quotes from Truett is, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. That's right. And by the looks on everybody's faces, we just had a really good time. Number 2, as you listen to the last 2 iterations of that song, I think it's a perfect example of the relationship between a growth mindset and leadership. Because it starts with putting our whole head in, taking our whole head out, putting our whole head in and shaking it all about, and maybe shaking because of frustration, I don't know. But then that unlocks the opportunity for us to put our whole self into the way that we develop ourselves and the way that we develop others. But it starts as a mindset. Bear with me, because like Dan said, I just fainted in the back of the room as Dan shouted out the Secret Sauce podcast. Thank you, Dan. My name is Josh Swing, and if I haven't had the chance to meet you yet, I would love that opportunity to know who I am and to know who is to blame for the hokey pokey. It's these little munchkins up here on the screen. This is the Swing family. This is my support system. My wife, Erin, is actually here with me today. She's back here in the back. Wave at everybody, Erin. She hates attention. She hates me right now for doing that. But she is the glue that holds our family together. And then we've got the kids. I am holding in this picture Palmer, our youngest. She's 9 months old. She's really sweet, despite the way that she looks in this picture. I don't know why she's mean mugging so hard. And then we've got our middle one, Graham. He's 2, and he is a bundle of joy and energy, lots of energy, as you can tell. And our oldest, Elliot, she is 4 years old and going on 14. Anybody that has 4-year-olds, they probably know this, but all the sass in the world. Also tons of responsibility. She'll take care of Palmer sometimes, and I realize saying that out loud sounds really bad. We don't leave her by herself with our youngest child. She's supervised. But I was standing in our kitchen the other night, and it was after a long day. We had put the kids down to bed, and we were just debriefing on the day. And Erin actually asked me the question. She said, do you think you'd be the same person that you are today if it weren't for you working at WildSpark, where I work? And my immediate response to her was, absolutely not. There's just zero chance if I didn't work at WildSpark for the past 6 years that I would be the same Josh that I am today. You see, over the past 6 years, I've had the opportunity to work with 300-ish Chick-fil-A teams across the country. And while those were all super cool partnerships, and We got to develop leaders in the restaurants. Selfishly, each of those 300-ish partnerships was a relationship. And a person at Chick-fil-A, a leader within that team that poured into me and invested in me and made me a better father, a better husband, and a better leader. And so no chance I would be the same without Chick-fil-A. I can genuinely say it's changed my life. And about 4 years into my WildSpark journey, 2 years ago, I had the realization that I was being very selfish. I was hoarding up all of this knowledge that people were pouring into me, and I wasn't sharing it with everybody else. And so I decided to launch a podcast, the Secret Sauce podcast that you just heard Dan talk about, where I get to interview Chick-fil-A leaders about their secret sauce for how they positively influence all those that are around them in their lives. Leaders like Kat Hudgens, who is right here in the Houston market. She is incredible. She has done a ton to organize this event along with the team. Can we give it up for Kat Hudgens for a second, everybody? Thank you, Kat. If you haven't listened to the podcast yet and you wrote it down in your notes, I'll do you one better. If you scan this QR code, you can follow the podcast right now on whatever streaming platform you want to follow it on. Also, as a bonus, this keynote that I'm doing right now will be released tomorrow morning. So if you like some of what you hear, hopefully you do, and you want to go back and share it with some of your team or share it with your friends, it'll be a really easy way to do that. So go subscribe to the podcast. I am here to talk about a growth mindset. And while, disclaimer, I have not stewarded a multi-billion-dollar business like Dan has, and I also have not commanded Navy SEAL troops like Denver has later today, I am a normal guy that has just been a product of a growth mindset. I've just sought to maximize every one of those relationships that I just talked about, to glean as much knowledge and wisdom as I can so that I can come and share it with audiences like you all and audiences like the listeners of the podcast. And I'm going to talk about a really big problem that exists in our world today. It's something that's super concerning. It's the enemy of a growth mindset, and it's the fixed mindset. You see, we live in a world today with a number of different external factors that add to the severity of this problem. We're in a convenience-driven world. We're constantly trying to do stuff faster and quicker, and I can tap a couple buttons on my phone, and essentially anything that I need will show up on my front doorstep within 2 days. And it causes us to think that slow is bad, and having to wait for things is bad. And our number one indicator of future success is our ability to delay gratification. It's our ability to wait. It's our ability to do the hard things now and knowing that those things are gonna pay off in the long run. And I had the opportunity to play basketball in college. I was on one of the best Division I teams in NAIA, if anybody knows what NAIA is. Essentially, out of all the teams that couldn't make it in the NCAA, our team was one of the best. And what I love to do now is pour into the next generation of basketball players. And so this is a picture I took at one of our practices recently. But I had a player not too long ago, his name was Brian. And Brian was every coach's dream. He got after it. Every time he showed up, 100% effort, every drill that we did. He never complained, even when we were running suicides. A lot of times he was staying after practice. He was putting up extra shots, putting in more work to continue to get better. And we were in a practice one day, and we're about halfway through the practice, and we're doing a rebounding drill, and Brian's giving his normal all-out effort. He's grabbing all the rebounds. And I hear another voice from Jason come from the sideline, and he said, "Quit being such a try-hard," is what he said. And it caught me off guard, because at the time I'd never heard the word try-hard before. And all my life I was taught to think that trying hard was a positive. It was something to be celebrated. But here Jason was using this word try hard as a negative towards Brian. And some of you may not have heard this word before. A lot of you younger leaders are probably familiar with this term try hard. The definition of it is a person who participates in an activity with too much enthusiasm, effort, emotion, and commitment. And it's really sad that this word exists. This comes from the dictionary. This is an actual word in the dictionary. It's really sad that this word exists, because I don't believe that we can have too much effort for something that truly matters. I don't think that we can be too enthusiastic about something that we are truly passionate about. But you see, people with a fixed mindset and people like Jason, and Carol Dweck would define it this way in her book Mindset, that they believe that intelligence, personality, character, talent, they're all static traits. It's either something you have or you don't. And so every moment is a point of validation for you, and not just your present success, but your future success, because you don't believe that you can grow your intelligence, your talent, your character, maybe your athletic ability. And what it results in is a desire to appear successful. Brian, on the other hand, had a growth mindset, and he believed that all of those things could be developed. And so coming into practice every day, it was an opportunity for him to get better. It was a chance to leave a better basketball player than he was before. A growth mindset results in a desire to learn and grow because you're more focused on what you are becoming than what you are in the moment. And you could be growth-minded in one area of your life and fixed-minded in another. So you could be extremely growth-minded with your role in the restaurant, but you could be fixed-minded in your relationships or your health and fitness or your spirituality. You could be fixed-minded in one area and growth-minded in another. I fell victim to that, sorry. In college, I was extremely growth-minded about basketball, but the same thing didn't hold true for my schoolwork. And as a result, I skated by, and praise God, I was able to make it out of there. But I didn't realize until I entered my professional career that I needed to be growing my intellect and my IQ in the same way that I would grow an athletic ability. And so I'm going to talk to you about how do we move towards a growth mindset. We get it, Josh. Fixed mindsets are bad. Growth mindsets are good. But how do we make sure that we don't drift into a fixed mindset? And how do we help others and pull them out of a fixed mindset into a growth mindset? Well, I've got 4 pillars that I'm going to walk through today, 4 C's, and you have the answers to the test there in your book. But for the first one, I need your help. I need some audience participation for this first one. I have a question. Who out there would say that they are a runner? You run somewhat consistently, or you run every now and then? I don't know. You may have ran competitively at one point in time. Show of hands, who would say, that's me. I get out and run a little bit. Come on, there's got to be more runners in the audience than this. We got some. Okay, black shirt, table 21. Will you come help me? Growth mindset, come on, get out of that chair. Hey man, what's your name?
Vance.
Vance, everybody. Everybody give it up for Vance. Vance, when was the last time you ran?
Monday.
Monday, okay.
Playing soccer.
Pretty recent. Mm-hmm. You gotta run a lot in soccer.
Yeah.
Vance, what store are you with?
Chick-fil-A, Nassau Bay.
Woo! She's excited. You got one fan.
Oh, yeah.
Vance, I'm gonna ask you to do something. Mm-hmm. Okay, get out of the comfort zone a little bit. I need you to run for me. Okay. Not a lot of direction here. I just want you to run. Will you run? Mm-hmm. Okay, on your mark, get set, go. Nice. All right, bring it on back, Vance, bring it on back. Perfect. Great form.
Appreciate it.
Look fantastic. So, Vance, I'm gonna paint a different picture for you this time, okay? I want you to imagine you're playing for the World Cup, all right? You're representing the US of A. You're playing for the World Cup. The trophy's on the line. It's in the 90th minute. 90 minutes in soccer?
I'll do 92nd minute just in case.
Okay, 92nd minute. Okay. You got a wide open breakaway to the goal with the ball. I want to see what that kind of run would look like. Okay, can you do that for me?
Sure.
You got that in your mind?
Uh-huh.
All right, let's get really rowdy for Vance right now. Come on. Vance. From here to that speaker right there. On your mark, get set, go! Woo! Vance is flying. Vance, you just won the World Cup. Thank you so much. You can head back to your seat. Vance, we got a gift for you, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That looked a lot different, right? The first time, and it may have been hard for some of you over here to see, the first time Vance ran, it was pretty relaxed, pretty directionless. The second time you ran, it was with a lot of intent. And you see, that's the difference between running and growing when we know our purpose and when we don't know our purpose. You see, our purpose is our engine. It's going to be what drives us. And so you have to be crystal clear on your purpose. Your purpose is the reason for which you exist, or the reason for which you do something. And from my conversations with a lot of different Chick-fil-A teams over the years, I have some favorites of purpose statements that I've seen over the years. Just some examples of what a very clear purpose looks like. This one comes from a Chick-fil-A team over in DC, and it's simply to make people's lives better. And I love the applicability of this, that it's not just happening in the restaurant, but this is probably happening in their lives everywhere, with the families that they go home to, with the communities that they're in. They can always make people's lives better. The next one is to love and serve well. It comes from a Chick-fil-A out in California. The specificity and the brevity of this, to know that we are going to love and serve well. One of the quickest ways we can impact people is to serve them well. And then this last one is my favorite, because it comes from Chick-fil-A 1960 in Eldridge Parkway. Anybody from Colleen and her team are in the building here? And it's to wholeheartedly serve others in a way that inspires fill in the blank. That's not a typo. It is blank. Because they want their team to feel personally connected to it. They get to fill that in with what they're most passionate about. And the reason why that is so important is because it has to take hold in our lives personally. Ultimately, we as individuals have to be able to answer the question, what will be said of me? What do I want to be said of me by my friends and by my family and by my coworkers? And once we have that clarified, we can then decide what our purpose is and what our daily actions are going to be to get us to that point. Because growing is hard. They're called growing pains for a reason. Most of the time, it's inconvenient. It's uncomfortable. You're having to sprint in front of an audience full of people. But if we know why we are doing it, we are much more likely to do it and to do it sustainably over a long period of time. So I won't talk anymore about that, because we'll have a breakout session later today on purpose and finding out what our individual purposes are. Once we have that purpose and that engine's running, we then have to start winning the daily battles and control our thoughts. I want everybody to imagine with me, you're back in high school. If you're not in high school anymore, you're back in high school now. And you're in your favorite class, and you're doing a project that's gotten you really fired up. You're really excited about this project, and it's presentation day. And you're walking up in front of the class, and you got your great poster board with glitter and paint and everything on it that you made pretty. And you put it up in front of the class, and you even hear somebody mutter in the front row, oh, here comes the try-hard. And you suddenly start to feel anxiety creep in. You start to feel everybody's eyes are watching you now. And you start to be concerned with, what are my friends going to say about me after I give this presentation to my class? And then you start to think about, what if I fail this presentation? What if I don't get a good grade on this? Does that mean I shouldn't pursue this thing that I'm super passionate about? But then I want you to mindset shift with me here. So shift your mindset to realizing what this moment is, this presentation is, and it's a growth opportunity. It's a small step on your journey to what you are going to become because you're working hard at this thing. And feel the anxiety just fade away. Feel the stress fade away, because you know that it's not going to determine your future value. It's going to give you some great feedback for where you're at in the moment, but it's not going to be an indication of where you can go. See, all of you have unrealized potential. We can't know what we are capable of until we try. And so we have to enter in with this mindset knowing that we are going to try. We're going to give it an all-out effort. Craig Rochelle would say it this way. He would say, our life is always moving in the direction of our strongest thoughts. So whether you think that you can or you think that you can't, you're probably right. I mentioned my family earlier. We've got a 9-month-old, Palmer. Shout out Palmer. And she is trying to walk right now. She's trying to take steps. And this is one of the many failed attempts at trying to walk right here on the beach. You can see her falling down. But she gets up again over and over and over. And she tries to keep taking steps and keep getting better at walking. And I had the thought as I was holding both hands and walking Palmer around the other day, I thought, what would it look like if Palmer became consumed with what her brother and sister thought about her, of how silly it looks whenever she falls down? Well, she probably wouldn't be walking. She'd probably be 5 years old and crawling around somewhere, but she doesn't. She has this childlike faith that she knows that if she remains determined, she is going to be able to walk eventually. But somewhere along the way, we start to care more about what other people think than actually growing and actually learning and getting better. And so how do we have a mindset more like Palmer? I've got some things that a fixed mindset would say. And if you're anything like me, when I was making this, I felt convicted because I was like, I've said a lot of these things over the course of my life. But these are some things to look out for. Maybe that you think in your mind, or maybe that you say out loud, or maybe that you hear somebody else say that you need to course correct. The alarm should go off to get you back on the growth mindset out of the fixed mindset. A fixed mindset would say that this way works. Why would I try something new? Why would I be bold? Why would I do something different if this way works? See, success can be the single most limiting factor to our future success. Because when success happens, we have a tendency to lay off. We have a tendency to relax. We have a tendency to coast. And what we need to do is continue pioneering, continue pressing forward, because what got you to that success is not going to be what gets you to the next success. So constantly be reinventing. The next one is I'm too advanced to learn from them. This would imply that you've arrived as a leader, and spoiler alert, you never arrive as a leader. If anybody had the excuse to say that they've arrived as a leader, it would probably be Dan Cathy. But you see Dan, and when you see him, you'll see his name tag, at least I think it's still this way, and it says in training on the name tag. Because it's a reminder that every person that you talk to, every opportunity you get is an opportunity to learn. You're not shutting off all those opportunities for learning just because you think too highly of yourself or your pride is getting in the way. If I ask a question, they'll think, I don't know what I'm doing. This is caring more about what other people think than your actual growth opportunity. Because the growth-minded leader would say, no, I'm going to ask the question so that I can learn and I can be better as a result. I don't care what everybody else thinks. Here's how a fixed mindset would interpret success. They did 300 cars in an hour in their drive-through. You know what? But they probably had a store close by that was closed for remodel. Or they probably had better infrastructure, more drive-through lanes. But the growth-minded leader would say, I'm going to schedule time with that drive-through director, and I'm going to sit down with them, and I'm going to ask them questions to figure out how did they do that? I don't even know if 300 cars is possible. Anybody done 300 cars in an hour in their drive-through? We do have some. Schedule time with these people. Come on. Find out the secrets. The last one here is I'm not a fill-in-the-blank person. You know, I'm just not a morning person. I'm just not a creative person. I'm not an ideas person. I'm not an exercise person. This would imply that there's no way for you to become that person. You're making a statement that's limiting yourself because you're associating it with your identity. And the reality is if you injected yet into this phrase, it would drastically shift things. The power of a yet. I'm not a morning person yet, but I'm going to work at it. I'm going to start backing up my alarm clock a little bit more. I'm not a creative person yet, but I'm going to start writing more. I'm going to start drawing more. Anybody that's seen success in any area, they would tell you that it wasn't easy to be creative. It was something they had to continuously work at. And so what would it look like if we injected yet into this? I'm not a owner-operator yet, but it's something I'm going to keep working at. Michael Jordan is a great symbol of, it's a very clear symbol of greatness. Nobody can argue that he is one of the best. I'm not going to say GOAT because I don't want all the LeBron fans coming out of the woodwork. But the guy won 6 NBA championships. 6 NBA championships. All 6 of those, he was the finals MVP. He was the most valuable player in that championship. He was 9-time All-NBA first-team defense. So So a lot of people think scoring machine when they see Michael, but he got it done on the defensive end of the court too. He's a Hall of Fame inductee. And a fixed mindset would look at somebody like Michael Jordan, they'd say, wow, he had a ton of skill. And he had a lot of athletic ability to be able to accomplish those things. But what Michael Jordan would tell you is that he's missed 9,000 shots in his career. And he's lost 300 times. And 26 times his team counted on him to take the last second shot to win the game, and he missed it. He lost the game for the team. And I guarantee you, some of those shots that he missed, he probably had some thoughts creep in. Hey, can you really get it done? Are you really the player that you think that you are? Are you the player that your team needs? But what's true of Michael Jordan, because we saw that the way that it played out over the course of his career, is he shifted back to that growth mindset. You see, he saw all of those 9,000 misses as a chance to learn from the missed shot and to make the next one, or a chance to bounce back from that loss and win the next game. And he would say that he failed over and over and over and over again in his life, and that is why he succeeded. It was never his idea to be the greatest. He was just incredibly competitive with himself. He knew that he needed to show up and be better each and every day, and it resulted in greatness. The most important part about this is it's contagious. So we have a mindset like this, and it overflows into other people. As I was talking about Palmer walking earlier, I didn't mention, but she's got an older brother and sister that's watching. They're listening to everything that mom and dad say, right? And how we engage with Palmer and how she's working really hard to walk. And a couple of weeks ago, we were at swim lessons. We're trying to learn how to swim right now, y'all. It's a challenge. Graham was having a particularly hard day, our middle child here. And his head was going underwater more than it was coming above, and he was trying to do anything other than doggy paddle. It just wasn't working out. And they got over to the side to take a break, and I see Elliot, our oldest, wrap her arm around Graham and pull him in and say, Graham, I love you. We're gonna do this. You got this, buddy. And that as a dad will just melt your heart. I'm trying not to cry right now because this is success. This is what success looks like. It's the reproduction of the growth mindset. Elliot knows that being a good swimmer is not something that just happens. It's not something you have or you don't. It's something that you have to work at. And she's encouraging Graham in that. So as leaders, when you think about your team and you think about all the exciting things that happen in the restaurant, I'll ask you, what are you celebrating? Are you celebrating the success when it happens? Are you celebrating the 300 cars? Definitely celebration worthy, but we have to be very careful, because if we're not celebrating the process and all the work that goes into it, we could slowly drift back into that fixed mindset. Look at what you're celebrating. What you're celebrating gets reproduced. So we have a clear purpose. We've got total control of our thoughts. We got those things on lockdown. We've taken captive every thought. And now we have to be intentional about the future. We have to create a plan for our growth, because it doesn't happen by chance. You don't drift to your desired destination. You have to have a plan for it. And why this is really challenging is we're inundated. We have to make over 35,000 decisions in the course of a given day. Psychology Today just came out with a study that the average American makes 35,000 decisions. That is a lot of decisions. And if we don't have the filter of, is this enlarging me or is this diminishing me, then the world will quickly control and impose their plan for our lives instead of our plans taking hold. So my question to you would be, on a scale of 1 to 5, how active and consistent would you say that your learning is right now? Jot it down on your paper. Solidify that number in your mind. Scale of 1 to 5. How active and consistent would you say that your learning is right now? 1 being like, Josh, it is hit or miss right now, sporadic. I couldn't tell you the exact day or how long ago it was when I listened to that podcast or I read that book. 5 being, it's happening every day. I'm pulling up a podcast every day, or I'm reading a couple pages in a book every single day. And I'll speak to the 5s first. It's great if you've mastered this learning, this consistent learning. But then what we are called to do as leaders is to pass it on. Once we've mastered it, we have a responsibility to invite the next leader in to our consistent and active learning mindset. And so be thinking about, how are you inviting people in if you've mastered this? Are you just doing it yourself, or are you inviting other people on your journey The next question is, if you're a 4, 3, 2, or 1, is to get to a 5, what is one thing that I could stop doing to create space for what's better? I'm not naive enough to think that like everybody's sitting around for 2 or 3 hours a day just looking for stuff to do. I'm sure that time is filled with something. The question is it enlarging or is it diminishing? Maybe we don't need to watch every season of Love is Blind and the reunion episodes too. Or maybe we should keep up with the Kardashians a little less. Or, I don't know, maybe we don't need to watch every game of our favorite sports team. I think they'll be just fine without you. But we need to do an audit and figure out, okay, where could we cut some stuff out to make room for what is productive? I got a couple recommendations for you. I love how much Dan talked about podcasts earlier, because podcasts and listening to different thought leaders has definitely changed my life. But make your commute your classroom. The average person commutes 1 hour each day in total, about 261 hours a year to and from work. What would it look like if we just jammed out to Taylor Swift a little less, or hit pause on that true crime podcast and found a productive audiobook or a great podcast that we could listen to instead to grow ourselves? Make your commute your classroom. The other recommendation I would have is to buy a book. And I use the word buy very intentionally. Something powerful happens when we put our hard-earned money towards something. We feel a little bit more compelled to maximize that investment that we made. So I'm sure everybody in here has a bookshelf at home with probably a bunch of books that you've never read. Don't go get one of those books because you won't feel as compelled to read it. Go buy a book. Go to Books A Million or Barnes & Noble or buy an audiobook offline. You will be much more compelled to follow through with it. And there's some great resources in our notes here from some of the speakers today of books and podcasts that have been very beneficial to them. Also, I would encourage you to habit stack, what James Clear would call habit stacking. So if you're a coffee person and you get up every morning and you hit brew on the Keurig or the coffee pot, put the book right next to the coffee pot. Let it be a constant reminder that, hey, when I go hit brew, I'm going to read 5 pages. I'm going to find one new insight. Or put it next to your bed and let it be a reminder that, you know what, I'm going to hold off on keeping up with the Kardashians tonight and I'm going to read a couple pages first. But put it somewhere where you know there's something that you do regularly that it could be a constant reminder for you to learn and to grow. Because it has to be a habit. So I don't know if either of those things are the thing for you. Those were just recommendations. But I would encourage everybody to write down one step that you'd like to take towards daily learning. What's one thing that you could do to incorporate more daily learning in your life? One thing. Think about one thing. Don't come in with 10 things because you'll be overwhelmed and none of them will happen. Pick one thing that you could do to incorporate more daily learning in your life. I got news for you though. It does not stop here. We got to keep going, y'all. Because learning without action, it's just entertainment. And we can get really obsessed with always having the new idea and being the smart person and getting to share those ideas with our friends and our coworkers and not actually practice what we preach. And so we have to look at how is it taking hold in our lives? Do we have a plan to implement the things that we're learning about? And this doesn't happen without relationships. We have to have people around us to hold us accountable. You see, we're 95% more likely as humans to follow through with something if we will mention it out loud to somebody who will hold us accountable, and we know that there is time in the future that they're going to ask us about that thing that we're saying that we want to do. 95% more likely. I'll take those odds any day of the week. You look at that comparatively to like the statistics on New Year's resolutions, and I think it's like a whopping 6% of people follow through with New Year's resolutions. It's because they're trying to do it by themselves, and we need other people. And I was thinking about an illustration, a metaphor that would best describe a growth mindset. And as you can tell, I'm a sports nerd, and so my mind immediately went to the Olympics. And I thought, man, a growth mindset is a lot like hurdles. Because you're experiencing all these challenges and you got to make sure that your thoughts are in order and you're experiencing those the right way as growth opportunities. And then I thought, no, wait, it can't be hurdles because it has to involve other people. There has to be somebody else involved. And so then I thought, oh, it's like a relay race because there's this passing off of the baton. You're passing on your knowledge to somebody else. right? All those purpose statements that we looked at before from the example Chick-fil-A's, they all involved making an impact on other people. So it has to involve somebody else. And then I found one better. There's a lot of weird sports in the Olympics. I don't know if anybody knew that. A lot of weird sports. One of those weird sports is relay ice skating. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this before in the Winter Olympics, but there's no baton. It's a shove. Like you physically push somebody forward. And I thought, what a beautiful example of what leadership looks like. Because we're propelling people forward. And you know what happens? That person comes back around and they propel us forward when there's accountability in the picture. My good friend, Juan Magadon. Juan, where are you? Raise your hand. Juan is my hero. And anybody who knows Juan will know why Juan is my hero. If you have not met Juan yet, he's over here. Make a beeline for him as soon as this is over so that you can meet him. He's the director of operations at 59 and Kirby. On top of that, he's getting a degree in something crazy. Biotechnology. A degree in biotechnology. I don't even know what that means. It's like way over here. And I asked Juan recently how he has seen such success facilitating a culture of growth within their team. And what Juan would tell you is it starts with creating the habits. And this is really difficult because it takes roughly 66 days to create a habit. And it's hard. It's a lot of reminders. It's a lot of accountability that you have to apply, and you're not getting a whole lot in return. But then something magical happens once the habits are created. Because then you start to empower other people. And they take initiative. And they start holding each other accountable, and they start holding you accountable. Juan's team at 59 and Kirby, some of you probably already know this, they set the record back in March for volume in a given month. And I asked Juan, I was like, Juan, was there ever a time where you were like, maybe we skip on this month, and maybe we don't have this conversation with our team this month? And his response was they would riot. They would lose it if I took this away from them now at this point, because it's ingrained into their habits. And they know that this is what got us success in the first place. And what got us here isn't going to be what keeps moving us forward. So we have to keep on going. We have to keep growing. And that was extremely inspirational for me. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have those people around me right now, I know, Josh, I'm the average of the 5 people that I spend the most time with, but I need to elevate the people that I'm around. I would encourage you to be the friend that you're searching for first. Don't get rid of all of your friendships. I'm sure they're great people. Elevate your friendships. Be somebody that calls others to more, and they'll become like 5 people that you want to be like when there's accountability in the picture. So send the text. What would it look like today if, I don't remember the number, 500 and something people got a text from you? Individual people got a text and it said, hey, I just wanted to encourage you, appreciate your leadership, excited to do this together. Let's keep growing. What would that look like to send that text today or to make that phone call? Unfortunately, we can't build relationships on social media. You got to talk to people. And so what would it look like to make the phone call? I know you're tired. I know it's a long day. Make the phone call and you won't regret it. Be the friend that you're searching for first. I was talking with Kat as they were organizing the conference, and I was like, what would success look like? What do you hope to see happen at this conference with all these incredible people in the room? And Kat said, I've grown so much from all of these connections that I've made across the Houston market, all of these fantastic leaders. And I hope that everybody leaves this conference with a new phone number in their contacts. Somebody that's maybe not even on their team at their restaurant. But they know that they could text that person after they get the chance to connect with them, and they could ask them, hey, what are you learning about this month? Hey, how are you applying that? What does that look like for you right now with your team? Imagine we send 12 texts over the course of this next year to somebody that we connect with at this conference. And the text is, what are you growing in this month? And how are you applying that? What kind of growth would that stir up in this room on a larger scale? If that's the type of movement that happened. So I would encourage you, there's actually a place in your notebook for new connections. Ask somebody at your table. We're sitting at tables with people that you probably have never met before. Be intentional, ask questions, say, hey, I'd love to encourage you as you're growing over the course of this year. This is jersey swapping has become really popular in professional sports. Dirk's one of my favorite players of all time. D-Wade also is. So let's number swap. Nobody take off their shirts here. Let's number swap. And let's commit to being better together. And if I could leave you with one thing, I would say it's hard. I know it's hard. And you're probably going to get called to try hard like Brian did. But I got to talk with Brian after that practice, and I got to tell him, listen, effort and hard work, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's actually going to be the thing that gets you where you want to go. And Brian got the opportunity to go play college basketball because of his growth mindset. And so let's take what the world intended to be negative and let's turn it into a positive. My challenge to all of you is to go be tryhards today for the things that matter the most. It starts with relationships, y'all. We got to build relationships here right now to be able to do that. This is a QR code. Again, would love to connect with everybody. 3 ways that you can do that. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. There's a lot of really good leadership content out there. I'm on LinkedIn. You can connect with me. I'll be your first connection if you don't have a LinkedIn yet. Number 2, follow the podcast. Number 3, my calendar is on here. So if anybody wants to talk about leadership or growth mindset or teaching a toddler how to walk, then I'm happy to do it. But thank you all so much. Have a great day.